Hi, I thought I would make a rendezvous and docking tutorial for beginner players because this is a really hot topic. So that was the target vehicle, what is there, and let's go up to orbit with this other probe there. And it later turned out the drawback of this is very light, so it means that reacts very fast on all the RCS input. Here I'm trying to keep the ascending and descending node to an equidistant triangle, which means that I'm in the same plane, or not the same plane, but the minimal inclination plane what I can come up with from this position. So this means that I don't need to change my inclination to match the target because I'm already in the same inclination. Because this is the way how I did my ascent, so that I came to the same inclination. And because this is the first example, here the target was retarded, so I'm advanced in my trajectory, which means I have to wait for it in orbit. And how we can do it? We can wait on a higher orbit because a higher orbit has less velocity. Although you need greater speed, greater delta v to get to a higher orbit, but when you are there, your speed will be less than for a lower orbit. So we have to wait for it on a higher orbit and wait for it until it gets to the proper position that we can do this ascending node. So this is what maneuver node. This is what I'm doing now here. I set this maneuver node so that we will meet in a position. We will be in the same position at the same time, but our speeds will not match because one is a circular trajectory, the other one will be a little bit elongated ellipse. And this is why we still need to do another maneuver for a successful rendezvous. So I reached the node and did the correction. So the whole point is that we have to have enough time to do this, because we have to put the maneuver node somewhere in the future. And we need to be able to freely move it so that the time of the ignition will make sure that our positions meet at the same time on the other end of the trajectory. And now we are getting very close to each other. This is what normally happens. What will happen, we will be in the same position at the same time, but not with the same velocity, because one is a circular orbit, the other one is a slightly elongated ellipse. So our speeds are necessarily different. So what we have to do now, when we are close, we have to kill this excess speed. Of course, this can be interpreted as braking if you look at the target vehicle, and this is actually braking if you look at the trajectory, because we will burn retrograde, so that the other high, so the apoapsis of this trajectory will shrink down and form the same circle as the target vehicle does. And then we will be in the same time, the same position, the same velocity, and this is a successful rendezvous that way. As I'm getting closer, what I'm trying to do is match our velocity vectors. So you can see that there is the purple indicator, which is for the target, and the yellowish indicator for the velocity, and there is also the center of the nav ball, which is our nose. So what happens when you are burning retrograde, you are pushing the retrograde velocity vector, and when you are burning prograde, you are pulling the velocity vector. So you can turn with this. In prograde burn, your nose indicator will pull towards you the velocity, the prograde velocity vector. In retrograde, it will try to push the indicator from the nose indicator away. So with this you can steer, and in fact there is no need for RCS for most of the time, just when we get very close. So what I'm doing, the two crafts point towards each other, so they set up each other as a target, and one is a passive one, it doesn't even have RCS. The other one is doing a docking. It doesn't matter which one does it. So at this point when they are very close, and we can do it. So what we have now, the successful docking will happen when the three indicators converge: the velocity indicator, the target position indicator, and your nose indicator, the center of the knob ball. And if both do it this way, we will meet successfully. So RCS is only needed in the final approach part, where we are pointing towards each other, and we cannot move from this position because then the docking ports wouldn't match. So we need to steer left and right, up and down with the RCS, or maybe slow down or speed up, but actually maybe slow down. Yeah, what I usually do is around half meters per second. So here we can see that we can steer with the RCS, but it's a little bit too strong for this mess. And finally, physics will finish this. We'll get close enough and the magnets activate, and there we are, a successful docking. Let's do this from the other way around. What if I let my target pass above me and I have to catch up with it? So the target is advanced and I'm retarded. Well, not in mental sense this way, but on the trajectory. So let's revert this and start it again with a different position. Here I am on the launch pad and let it move past. In practice, almost never happens that you are doing the starting exactly at the right time. Most of the time you will be somewhat too late or too soon. So these are the two practical cases. I have to go up again into orbit, but not now. I know that because the target is advanced and I have to catch up with it, I have to be in a lower orbit because it requires less delta V, but it has a higher orbital velocity. It means that anything in a lower orbit will catch up with anything else on a higher orbit. Again, I try to keep both of the ascending and descending nodes far away from me. This way I automatically adjust my inclination as close as I can to the other one. If it doesn't happen, we still can do a normal or anti-normal burn at any of the ascending or descending nodes, which will correct the inclination. But now we have to wait until we get into a position where a burn will take us to the same time, to the same position in the same time, the same way as we did previously, but now we are below the target. And I set it up so that it's a concentric circle with the other one, because this way I do not need to change the prograde or retrograde indicator in the node. It will be the same velocity wherever I choose to do my burn. It will be the same delta V required, because our altitude difference is constant, and basically this is how Apollo did the lunar orbit rendezvous. The LAM waited in a lower orbit until it got in the proper position, where it did another burn that took them to the same position at the same time. And this is exactly the same thing that happened before. We have to wait for the burn. We can see that I was 80 kilometers on 80 kilometers orbit. I should have been somewhat lower, so I needed to wait a little bit longer. The bigger difference the faster I will catch up. Of course, the atmosphere limits me. I cannot go very low because then I will go into the atmosphere. Sometimes you can get risky with this and do an orbit inside the atmosphere to be even faster. Of course, that needs constant corrections to not lose your speed. Otherwise, you will fall down. So here now, as the burn finished, we again have one circle and one slightly elongated ellipse. The way that the two vehicles will be in the same position at the same time but with different velocities, so we will need to cancel that velocity when we are close to each other. And this time, because I'm in a lower orbit, I need to burn in a prograde direction, so that I raise my periapsis to be the same altitude on the other side as the trajectory of the target vehicle. So we are getting closer. And when we are close, we need to move these three indicators together. And what happens this way, the orbits automatically will become the same. You don't need to actually look at the orbits to make this my first tries were like this. I wanted to compare the orbits on the map, but you don't need to do that. What you need to look at is only the nav ball. And of course, when you are in the same position at the same time with the same velocity, you will automatically have the same orbits. So what we need to do is to cancel the speed, and as previously, the retrograde indicator is pushed away from the center of the nav ball, and the prograde indicator is pulled towards the center of the nav ball. So this way it is possible to steer. And of course, if the two crafts have to point towards each other with the docking ports. And if it's on the nose or on the tail, it's very easy to point to do this just by using the nav ball, by pointing to prograde or retrograde direction compared to the target, so in the target mode of the nav ball. Final corrections. And cancelling the remaining speed. So as we are getting closer, we need less speed. If the speed goes very low, the indication on the nav ball will become erratic. So there needs to be at least, let's say, half a meters per second indication. So otherwise, it's becomes hard to steer because it's moving all over the place. So now I'm slow enough, I can point towards the other probe with my nose where the docking probe is. It could be on my tail, but then I would do this with the other indicator. So with the retrograde indicator, it doesn't really matter. The point is that all three indicators converge: the yellow velocity indicator, the purple target indicator, and your nose in the center of the nav ball. Or this, whether these are prograde or retrograde, it doesn't matter. It happens whether you put the docking port in the nose or the tail. And here we are, the final corrections with RCS. Not much is needed, and just let it coast. And there it is. Thanks for watching. Bye.